how will all of these overnight cues impact the Indian markets? We have our research team joining in with the Power Prep segment and how the trade setup looks like, the stocks that you need to keep an eye out for, and the FNO setup as well. First up, Ekta joins us with all the market cues. Morning, Ekta. What are you picking up this morning? We had a bit of a consolidation for the last 2 days.
Morning, Hormuz. Well, like you mentioned, the market gained for the fourth straight day. The Nifty is at 22,400. Advanced decline ratio was positive in yesterday's trading session as well. For today, it seems as though global markets are quiet. You alluded to that, and I'll get to that in just a bit. But it seems as though stock-specific action, domestic cues will be top of mind. I think Kotak and the reaction to the RBI news last evening will be top of mind for the markets this morning. We also had post-market numbers from Axis Bank, where the gross NPA was the lowest in 34 quarters. So that might negate some of the negatives from Kotak. A lot of post-market results, so HUL, AU Small Finance Bank, LTI, Mindtree, Macrotech, Syngene, all of these companies will be reacting to their numbers. And we have a heavy day in terms of numbers as well. ACC, IndusInd Bank, Bajaj Finance, L&T Tech Services, Techem, Nestle, Emphasis, just to name a few. And along with that, we have April expiry. So it's a whole mix in terms of domestic cues, not to mention phase 2 polling also begins on the 26th of April. So the markets will keep an eye in terms of what's taking place when it comes to elections. Global cues, US close mix. Meta was the big headline post-markets. Asia largely sluggish. The Bank of Japan monetary policy begins today. Oil is range-bound, so that's a positive. Gift Nifty indicating maybe a bit of a consolidatory start for us, considering the 4-day rally that we've seen. US jobless claims plus GDP data will be something from the US we'll watch out for, and the US personal consumption expenditure index, which comes out tomorrow. So I think all of these data points will be important to assess what the Fed is probably going to do going forward.
An earnings heavy day indeed, and earnings season has just begun. Thanks a lot, Ekta, for joining in. Over to Sudarshan now to list out the stocks that you need to watch out for this morning. Sudarshan, good morning.
Morning, Humar. So Kotak Bank is the latest financial institution to face RBI's action. RBI has asked Kotak Mahindra Bank to stop issuing fresh credit cards and also asked not to onboard new customers via online and mobile banking. And these actions are based on concerns following IT examination for years 2022 and 2023. Kotak Mahindra Bank later says it has taken measures for adoption of new technologies to strengthen its IT systems and will continue to work with RBI to swiftly resolve balance issues at the earliest. Coming to earnings, Axis Bank has reported healthy Q4. Asset quality has improved. NPAs are lowest in nearly 3 years. NIM has improved versus expectation of a decline. It's up 5 bips to 4.06% sequentially. NII and profit are higher than estimates as well. HUL results are in line with muted expectations. Revenue is flat. EBITDA is down 1% year-on-year. Volume growth has come in at 2% versus poll of 2 to 3%. LTI Mindtree, revenue and margin lower than estimates. Constant currency revenue has declined 1.3% versus estimate of 0.8% decline. Margin has come in at 14.7% versus estimate of 15.1%, and margin has declined for third consecutive quarter. Company says will return to growth in Q1 FY25 as Q4 was a one-off quarter. AU Small Finance Bank, NIM is at a 15-quarter low of 5.1%. NI has come below estimate at rupees 1,337 crore. Profit is higher versus estimate, but it's aided by other income. Oracle Finance, revenue is up 11.7%. EBIT margin has come in at 44.7% versus 44.3%. And as per RIMA, normal quarter is the normal quarter after the blockbuster Q3. Indian Hotels, strong earnings continue. It has reported best Q4 ever. Revenue is up 17%. Margin has risen nearly 200 bips year-on-year. MAS Fin, strong earnings. NI is up 39%. Operating profit has increased 27% year-on-year. Syngene, operating earnings have improved in Q4. Margin has risen 300 bips to 34.6% year-on-year.
Plenty of stocks to watch out for this morning. Thanks a lot, Sudarshan, for joining in. And lastly, Nigel joins in with the FNO update this morning. Nigel, it's the monthly expiry today. What is the FNO setup looking like?
Well, that's right. It's a monthly expiry. But if you look at it, rollover action is still a little bit lower than what we've seen on an average in the past. So plenty of action does still hold in this series itself. What are the FIs doing yesterday's trading session? Well, they unbound some long closure on 30,000 contracts. Did get unbound. And that's why, in fact, we did see that the short positioning has now moved to around 69%. Not just that, if you look at it in absolute terms, it's clocked 1.25 lakh contracts. Now, that's the highest we have seen in the last 4 months or thereabouts, close to around 4.5 months or thereabouts. So that the last time we saw this sort of short edition well, it was, short positioning by the FIs. It was in November 2023. So keep that in mind. Options data on the Nifty. Let's pull that up for you on the screen. Two strikes are very active. 22,500 call, 22,400 put. So those put writers, the premium ended at around 55 rupees. But on an average, it could have been around 70 to around 80 rupees odd. So for those put writers, their stop loss comes in at around 22,320 approximately. So that's the first reference point you should see on the downside. In terms of the 50 DMA, well, that's the crucial mark, 22,200. We've been highlighting this point, right? 22,150, 22,200. That's going to be important on the downside. Resistance comes up for you on the screen. On the Nifty Bank, that's going to be very, very exciting today because you have Kotak Mahindra Bank that will pull back. It could be quite a large pullback out there. So I've given the reference points. We ended on the 20 DMA. The 50 DMA is the first reference point on the downside, and on the upside, 48,500. GIFT 50 suggests a bit of a pullback. Let's see where we go from there. 65-point pullback. As I said, the first reference point will be 22,320. Back to you.
Plenty interesting levels to watch out for, Nigel. Thanks a lot for joining in. And time